Hey everybody, this is Andy Hall. You're watching the Disappointed Cat Morning Show. What are the stories we're covering today? I'm glad you asked. DC statehood, another vote in the House, Minneapolis and cops and the federal investigation, Manhattan decriminalizes prostitution, kind of, sort of. Ryder nabbed on his girlfriend's Instagram profile. It's true. It's all true. And there's COVID. This COVID, we're going to do a little video showing people, like, when are you going to need a booster COVID shot? And maybe if we have time, we're going to take a look at Senator Kennedy from Louisiana trying to stump Stacey Abrams. It's somewhat ridiculous. Something that I'm not even going to get into it. Let's just do something funny. Maybe something funny with cats. Judgment Cat. That's what that was. Hope everyone's doing well in the channel. Hey, this stream isn't showing up on your channel for some reason. Why would it not be? Why? Why is this not working? Let me hit my... Okay, so it seems to be showing up now on my iPad that I have here, my second shot. So, hey, MC Fractal. It's always a pleasure to see MC Fractal. I've known MC Fractal online for quite a while. He is a very gifted visual artist, computer artist. John Hudson. All right. Clockwork Rex, the king of clockworks. I'm glad to see that you're here. Jess M, Jesse Bear, right? Hope everyone's doing well. Me, I'm doing okay. You know, as many of you, I'm going to stop talking about me and continue my hellos. Simply Secular Dave. Got a message from Simply Secular Dave on Twitter last night saying, I am working, and I am working a lot. My hat, tip of the hat to you, sir. Well, I did hit the like. Thank you. Because I always forget to ask people to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. But thankfully, people in the chat, they're smarter than I am, and they know things. Hey, Sammy Jenkins, I hope you're doing well. Yes, so, you know, a vaccine appointment. Congratulations, Jesse Bear. Today, what am I up to? As many of you know, I have a lot of stuff going on today, like vaccine stuff. I'm getting my second vaccine shot today. Excited about that. I am driving down to North Carolina tomorrow. That's part of the adoption bit in the banner that you're seeing right now. I'm going to go see my birth mother for the first time, like ever. First time. I am driving down there with my girlfriend. We're doing the crazy 12-hour drive. Am I doing the drive the next day after getting my second COVID shot? Yeah. Is this the smartest move in the world? No. Will hilarity ensue? Maybe. So I'll probably be posting on my Patreon, my Patreon about my wild adventures, about whether or not I get a fever or how sick I am, if I get sick at all from the second shot. I don't know. I was talking with the Friendly Atheist yesterday. We did this episode, the best advice ever. And the best advice ever, for those of you who don't know about the show I run on this channel, is where great people come on and talk about the best advice they ever heard. Hammond came on yesterday. I premiered the video at 7 p.m. Eastern yesterday too. And we had a great conversation, about 20 minutes, where he talked about the best advice he ever got. Yeah, so that was really fun. And what else am I talking about? Ad-free content. Yes, I'm going to be putting a new video from the archives, something really cool, something fun on this channel for members. And of course, on my Patreon account, my Patreon page too, for patrons. So I've got a lot of stuff going on. So what does that mean? I'm not streaming tomorrow, unless I'm streaming in a car driving down to North Carolina. And that's always a possibility because I'm crazy, and that could happen. Unlikely though. On Saturday, It's going to be an emotional day. I'm going to be meeting my mother for the first time. And so, yeah, that's going to be emotional. That's going to be emotional time. And yeah, I'm just babbling at this point, and that's what happens when I get emotional, I guess. So, all right. So Scott Duke says, hello, Scott Duke. I got tired and body achy with my shots. The first shot I didn't have a problem with. Hemet was saying that he got a fever, about 100-degree fever, a little bit over 100 degrees when he got his second shot. So it varies back and forth. It varies back and forth about what kind of, reactions people get from the second COVID-19 shot. My girlfriend walked away fine with it. She had a little chills. She had a little, she had a little bit, but not that much. Will it affect me driving all the way down? Well, not all the way down 95, but from Boston down to North Carolina. I'm hoping to get most of my driving done early in the day. So maybe from 5 o'clock in the morning till about 1 o'clock. And then if I start getting, side effects, then maybe I could just sleep it off, take some aspirin. I don't know. Sammy says, had a friend get a second shot and said it gave her lots of aches and pains and generally felt crappy. Well, I'm going to, what I'm going to do? I'm going to do, anyone who knows me realizes that when I'm under stress and when the situation may be out of control, I say two things. One, it's fine. And two, it's manageable. I have gone through several toxic relationships, romantic relationships, with the mantra of I'm fine and it's manageable. And so and up until the time it doesn't. Yeah. So I think everything's going to be fine. And I think it's going to be manageable. Yeah, exactly, Jesse Bear. Everyone reacts differently to the vaccine. Some people I know feel nothing and others feel like crap for a few days. Rage. Okay, here it is. You're lucky. Ohio is the worst part of my trip to North Carolina. That state never ends. It's all flat land, 6 hours of nothing. And of course, the king of clocks says I should drink heavily. Maybe once I get there. All right. Congratulations. Thank you, Clockwork. Yeah. I didn't end up getting called. Okay, so very good. All right, so we should actually, before we get into the news cycle, I'm going to get rid of this banner. Before we get into the news cycle, let's do some memes, right? Let's do some memes. Something fun before talking about the news. All right, well, how can you feel bad with this picture, right? How can you feel bad about that? Is it laugh out loud funny? Maybe not. But that kid does not want that cat to feel the rain. This one, it's a little bit harder. It's a little bit funnier. I have loud opinions about things I don't understand. Make America great again. There seems to be a relationship, and tell me if I'm wrong, chat. There seems to be a positive correlation. The louder your opinion is, perhaps, in many situations, for many people, the louder the opinion may be, the less you really understand the opinion. That's only for a majority. That's only for most people. There are exceptions, the terms that apply, of course. Some of us have to be loud here on this platform, because if we're not loud, no one's going to pay attention to us. But in everyday life, the louder someone has about their opinion, you got to say to yourself, I wonder if you really thought that through. And of course, the last meme, the last pick. Social distancing, cat, support cat. There has to be some kind of backstory to this shot. I'd be intrigued in finding out what it is. But that cat's doing its job. That cat's doing its job. Socially distancing, support cat. There we go. Raid says, I would recommend being sober at all times. If they do find out you're a liberal, you'll need to have a clear mind and run away. Well, I came up in the city that I grew up in strikes fear into white suburbanites. So I've been able to, I survived mostly by being able to identify trouble as it comes towards me so I can go in the opposite direction. But I will take your advice to heart, Rage, definitely. Simply secular. I'm fine. It's manageable. Is way better than I'm not fine and it's management, right? I'm getting the Moderna. Moderna. I'm getting the Moderna. That's the vaccine I'm getting. Here it is. Get an alignment after your trip if you have to drive through Pennsylvania. Our roads are about the same as the surface of the moon. Well, it's Route 95. So 95 is a federal road. So I imagine the interstate. So I imagine I'm not going to have to drive off of 95 while I'm in Pennsylvania. So James Henry, long time no see. Glad to see that you're here, sir. All right. So what did we do so far? We did some memes. We did a funny cat video. What's the first story? DC statehood. DC statehood. People keep talking about stacking the Supreme Court. I've been talking about stacking the Senate. Of course, you can do both. If it's possible, you can do both. I think the Senate is a longer-term solution myself. And here's the first story. House to vote on bill to admit Washington, D.C. as the 51st state. Why is this important? Because it helps break the deadlock in the Senate. Yeah, we're going to get one representative, a true blue representative from Washington, D.C. But what's more important are those two Democratic senators we would get if Washington, D.C. becomes a state. Oh, links. The links are in the description if you want to read the whole articles. Here it is. Washington, the House will vote Thursday on a bill to admit Washington, D.C. as the 51st state, although the measure is likely to fail in the evenly divided Senate. I'm going to stop right here and just say, yes, if the rules, it takes 60 votes. It takes 60 votes to pass statehood. However, that's because of the filibuster, right? If the Republicans can filibuster this. So there are special circumstances that you don't need 60 votes. We've talked about this a million times, and I'm going to do it all over again. Reconciliation in terms of financial bills. You only need a straight up 50% vote. In terms of nominations by the president, you only need a 50% vote. There's no reason why the Democrats could just make statehood a 50% vote. Of course, that means you'd have to get conservative Democratic senators like Joe Manchin on board to carve out this little bit of the filibuster. How would you do that? I don't know, bribe them. That could be the answer. It seems to be a lot of answers in politics, seems to be money. But I digress. Let's go back to the story. For the bill's advocates, DC statehood is a civil rights issue. The district has a population of more than 700,000 people. And for those of you listening at home, yes, that is more than many states. I know that Vermont has maybe 500,000 people off the top of my head. Oh, here it is, larger than the population of Wyoming or Vermont. But while those two states have 2 senators and a representative in the House, D.C. has no voting representation in Congress. Eleanor Holmes Norton represents D.C. in Congress as a non-voting delegate. Statehood advocates also point out that D.C. pays more in federal taxes in 21 states and more per capita than any state, according to 2019 IRS data. This district is also diverse with a population that is 46% Black and majority non-white. If admitted, it would be the first state with a plurality Black population. DC statehood is everything that the Republicans hate. It would be a minority majority state. The legislation titled H.R. 51 would create the state of Washington, Douglas Commonwealth, named after Frederick Douglass. It would give D.C. 2 U.S. senators and a voting representative in the House, just like every other state. The bill would also cordon off the White House, U.S. Capitol, and the National Mall to remain under federal control as the seat of the U.S. government. The House approved a U.S. statehood measure by a vote of 232 to 180 last year, but it did not get the vote in the Senate, not surprising, which was then controlled by Republicans. Although Democrats now hold a 50-seat majority, most legislation requires 60 votes to advance, and the bill is unlikely to garner any support from the Republicans. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has committed to bring the measure to the floor for the vote, but a motion to vote forward with the legislation will most certainly fail. Yeah, unless you actually work for it. Many DC statehood supporters are pushing the Senate to eliminate the filibuster, which would allow measures to advance with a simple majority, but this would require support from almost all 50 Democrats in the Senate, with Vice President Kamala Harris casting the tie-breaking vote. 2 Democrats say they won't support it, but dooming the prospects for H.R. 51. Just bribe them. Positively reinforce them. I don't know what you would do with Joe Manchin. Just tell him you'll put up like 50 coal burning factories, electrical factories in West Virginia. Just give him whatever he wants. What does he want? And just carve out the filibuster for this time, and of course for when Puerto Rico comes up for statehood too. You get DC and Puerto Rico. That's 4 true blue Democratic senators right there. Let's see. So this is. We talked about medical marijuana. We've talked about marijuana, the legalization of marijuana, many times on this channel. New York State is looking to get $300 million a year in tax revenue from legalization of marijuana. Colorado, every month, Colorado makes $20 million in state revenue. It's insane that every state isn't legalizing recreational marijuana just for the tax revenue alone. But the thing is, in DC, people voted for marijuana and Congress overruled them. Congress has exclusive jurisdiction over Washington, which means local legislation, including DC budget, must be approved by Congress. What a bunch of bastards. This can have a controversial side effect. When DC residents make decisions that are blocked or overturned by Congress, DC voters approved Initiative 71 in 2014, which allows adults to grow, possess, and gift marijuana. Gifting marijuana. However, Congress also blocked the district from allowing marijuana sales by attaching a rider to DC's appropriations bill to prevent it from using funds to legalize or regulate cannabis sales. That's your federal government at work, everyone, just messing things up. And regarding marijuana, the partisan balance of the district is in large part why DC state government. Yeah, okay, so we already know that. We know why Republicans hate the idea. Yes, I'm going to put an R at the end of idea. I'm doubling, tripling down on that. The Republicans hate the concept of DC becoming a state, just because of the fact that it would be a minority majority state, but also, of course, because of the Senate. All right, I'm going to check out the chat. I've ranted enough. Texas is coming around to legalization. It would be great for Texas. It would be great for any state to legalize. And also, of course, we're going to be talking about Manhattan decriminalizing some aspects of prostitution too, which is also a no-brainer. I have to tell you that. Can you imagine what would happen? Just think about it. What would happen if prostitution was legalized, if sex work was normalized, proper unions formed, some taxes? The country would have more money than it knew what to do with. Maybe pay things off. Maybe pay for reparations. Evanston, Illinois, they're doing reparations. They're doing a form of reparations with marijuana money. Yep, and yet they continue to throw the black kids into jail for DC for weed. Yep. Too true, Rach, too true. Well, Dr. Mordecai, you raise an interesting question. How will the for-profit prison system make money without pot smokers in jail? Difficult. That's how. Oh, hey, here it is. The king of clockwork. Clockwork Rex says, on July 1st, I can grow 4 plants and carry around an ounce of pot in my state. Congratulations. Congratulations on that. Yeah, I had a buddy up in Maine who had a very nice, I think he had like 12 plants up there. All right. Well, Clockwork X, yeah, I believe. I don't know what the situation is in Samoa is like, but I know that in Puerto Rico, there was a vote in the last election, and a majority of people voting in Puerto Rico are in favor of statehood. Let's see. Grease those wheels. Yeah, you got to grease the wheels to get things done in this country. It's unfortunate, right? Here we go. We should get rid of the legislative filibuster and follow the precedent that Mitch sent. Interesting article in The Economist a couple of weeks ago that talked about how these type of voting systems where the minority has veto power, basically, these systems do not work over time. Am I going to bring up the Polish-Lithuanian state? What is the Polish-Lithuanian state? It was pretty major back in the Middle Ages, but they had a federal system of government that basically the minority could just veto anything that the majority tried to pass, and that did not do well for them. The Holy Roman Empire, as Voltaire said, neither Roman nor holy nor an empire. They also had a chaotic system. This type of government that has the minority being able to derail everything majority wants, these systems fail. All right. Rage loves talking about. I haven't had to pay for weed since we legalized it, outside of outgrowing costs, which I split with the growing. Yeah, very good. That's good. That's good rage. Envious. All right, so what's the next story? We just talked about DC statehood, the possibility of DC statehood. Should we? Let's talk about COVID for a minute. When are you going to need a booster, right? I'm getting my shot today. Many people in the chat have already gotten their shots. But when are we going to need a booster? Let's take a look at this video with Lance O'Donnell.
Well, I'm sitting here now with 2 shots of Moderna in me, feeling fine. When might I need another? And how long is this going to last? How long are my 2 shots going to cover me?
Yes, Lawrence, thanks for having me on. I, too, am sitting here with 2 shots of Moderna, feeling quite good. And my best guess is that I might need a booster next year. We don't know for sure. As Dr. Fauci said, there's a lot to sort out. The science on this is not clear, but the evidence so far says these vaccines have a very strong level of protection at 6 months. I would not be surprised if it lasts at least a year. But it is possible that for the first couple of years of this pandemic, we're going to need annual booster shots. I don't know for sure. Small chance it'll be earlier, but that's my best guess.
Do we already have information about that slope downward that Dr. Fauci was talking about? For example, if it's 95% when it's relatively fresh, say a month after you've gotten the shot, does that effectiveness, how long does it take for it to slope down to, say, 90%?
Yeah, it doesn't quite, it's not like we lose a little bit of effectiveness every day or every week. What happens is we have plenty of antibodies. They will slowly go down, and there will come a level below which you just won't have the same 95% protection anymore. And we don't know what that level is. We have not seen any evidence that you hit that at 6 months. And that's why I said my guess is we're going to get to a year, but we don't know. But I don't have any reasons to believe that someone 6 months out is any less protected than someone who's only a month out.
Because I know the way people are talking about this in the real world is they're thinking about travel plans, for example, and they're thinking, well, I got my shot 2 weeks ago, and they start to plan travel. As people have been discussing planning travel farther in advance, this is just in my conversational bubbles, they start to worry, oh, wait, will this vaccine still be good for that trip in September?
Yeah. So what I've been saying to folks is, don't worry about the summer; it'll be good. Don't worry about much of the fall; it'll be good. And again, it's probably early to middle of next year that most people will have to start thinking about this. But we get the flu shot every year, and that's not a huge deal. And I think I would not be surprised if we can need a COVID shot. Here's the one way in which we could end up needing something sooner. If the variants really start causing a lot of breakthrough infections, we're seeing a little bit of it. It's not bad. But if that really picks up, then I can imagine people needing a booster to deal with the variants, and that could come sooner. But if you're planning anything for this calendar year, I think you should feel reasonably confident at this moment that you'll be able to do that without needing a booster.
And what about vaccinating children?
Yeah, I think we're making good progress on that, Lawrence. Look, right now, obviously, 16 and 17-year-olds are allowed on Pfizer. I expect over the next 4 to 6 weeks to hear from the FDA about 12 to 15-year-olds. Pfizer's already filed an authorization for that. The big question is kids under 12. And there we really don't know. We're just doing the studies right now. It could easily be end of summer, fall, could even be later than that. At this point, that's much harder to project. But I'm pretty confident by the time we're in the summer, 12 and above, we should be able to vaccinate.
All right, there you go. I just want to echo on what Lone Wanderer's Bunker is talking about smoking pot and driving. Bad idea. It's just a bad idea. And I will say, too, is that when I started using Uber or Lyft, one of those two services, right? A lot of the ride sharing services, my drinking got significantly more intense because I felt like, I don't have to drive anywhere. But that's a digression. I'm going to go back to the chat. But I'm better now, everyone. I'm better. So when will they see if my girlfriend was here? If the girlfriend was here, she would be able to be able to offer some insight. She's doing biofarm. She does biofarm stuff. But it would make sense. But whether or not they can do that in terms of manufacturing, I'm not sure. Let's see. Yeah. Your reflexes definitely aren't that good, are not that good when you're high. So yeah, I was just counting out during when the video was playing. So I'm going to be fully vaccinated in May. So that means May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February. If I get good immunity for 10 months, maybe, I'm trying to plan out my social schedule, or what I can do, or what I feel comfortable with doing. And so maybe I'll start I'm not going to say quarantining myself again, but if the evidence shows that my level of immunity is going lower and lower right during flu season, maybe I'm going to be a little cautious. Maybe I'll be a little cautious. All right. So that was a bit about COVID. What's our next story? Halftime show. It's 28 minutes. I'm not going to be able to cover all the stories today. Possibly, maybe, I don't know. And just to let you know, we are doing the after party after show. Of course, it's an open room. I'm only going to be able to do the open room today for 45 minutes. It usually goes from 10 to 11. Today, I'm going to have to cut it short because I'm getting my shot. And I want to make sure I have a lot of time because I got to drive. I got to drive down to Gillette Stadium for all of you Patriots fans. Yeah, that's why I'm getting, and all you Patriots haters, that's why I'm getting my my second shot. So I have to, 45 minutes for the after party, after show. The link is in the description. If you want to come in and just talk about anything, that's great. So let's do the halftime show. Let's do something funny before doing more new stuff.
Little background story here. My boyfriend ended up saving this cat from the cold, and now he makes it known that my boyfriend is his. The bond that these two have, that's it. I'm competing with the cat now. Not another female, not no one else, the cat. I compete with the cat on the daily. The cat hates me because when I'm there, my boyfriend's with me, so he makes it known that he owns my boyfriend. Ultimately, they are one.
Well, I think that cat's pretty awesome, to tell you the truth. I don't know what his relationship is with his girlfriend. She seems like a lovely person. But that cat's pretty cool. That guy's getting a good deal with that cat. Cat reps. Oh, yeah. Well, the shot line, the shot line today. It moved really fast. The last time I got my shot, the first shot, of course, I went down to Gillette, and I was impressed at how fast the line actually moved. Now, I've heard other people going to other facilities that they did not have such a good experience. But Gillette Stadium, it was fantastic. Cat People was a weird movie. You're right. Cat People was I remember that movie. All right. Next story. What are we doing so far? Minneapolis caught. I want to talk about prostitution. I want to talk about sex work. I'm gonna rip up the script. Not really, because I still want to read from it. But I'm gonna jump over to Manhattan decriminalizing some aspects of prostitution. I just want to say again, I'll say it every once in a while, and I don't want to be an optimist, right? I want to be someone who follows the data. That's who I want to be. And I've seen legalization of gay marriage, legalization of marijuana in many states. And I always thought, will I be old? Will I live to see the legalization of prostitution? This is a step forward. Manhattan to stop prosecuting prostitution, part of a nationwide shift. Manhattan District Attorney's Office announced Wednesday that it will no longer prosecute prostitution and unlicensed massage, putting the weight of one of the most high-profile law enforcement officers in the United States behind the growing movement to change the criminal justice system's approach to sex work. The district attorney, we know this name, Cyrus Vance Jr., asked a judge Wednesday morning to dismiss 914 open cases involving prostitution and unlicensed massage, along with 5,080 cases in which the charge was loitering for the purposes of prostitution. The law that made the latter charge a crime, which had become known as the Walking While Trans Law, was repealed by New York State in February. And for those of you who are wondering, Andy, you cover a lot of stories that don't have to do with atheism, right? And it's like, well, yes, that's true. But I also want to challenge that assertion by saying the reason why sex work is illegal is partly due to, of course, our puritanical past here in this country. It's due to evangelical Christianity. It's due to the demonization of sex work. Thank you, little baby Jesus. Let's go on with the story. The announcement represents a substantive shift in the office's approach to prostitution. Many of the cases Vance moved to dismiss dated to the 1970s and 80s, when New York waged a war against prostitution in an effort to clean up its image as a city of iniquity and vice. I don't know. I'm not against vice. The office will continue to prosecute other crimes related to prostitution, including patronizing sex workers, promoting prostitution, and sex trafficking, and said that its policy would not stop it from bringing other charges that stem from prostitution-related arrests. That means, in effect, that the office will continue to prosecute pimps and sex traffickers, as well as people who pay for sex, continuing to fight those who exploit or otherwise profit from prostitution without punishing the people who for decades have borne the brunt of the law enforcement's attention. Is this perfect? No, it's not perfect, but it is a step forward. And one of the many themes of this channel is that we cannot allow the perfect to be the enemy of the good. Manhattan will join Baltimore, Philadelphia, and other jurisdictions that have declined to prosecute sex workers. Brooklyn also does not prosecute people arrested for prostitution, but instead refers them to social services before they are compelled to appear in court, unless the state attorney's office there is unable to reach them. We had Caitlin Bailey on. Caitlin Bailey is someone she is a sex worker advocate. She's made a few appearances on this channel, and she did this wonderful one-woman show, or has done it, about her experiences as a sex worker while in high school, which she does not advocate anyone doing sex work while in high school. And she does the Old Pro podcast, which talks about the history of sex work here in the United States. It's a great show. Then check out the chat. Yes, James Henry. Well, it's being where you are. There are some areas of the world that sex workers are protected. Not many, though. Let's see. Well, that's it, Sean. The irony being the biggest customers of prostitutes happen to be evangelicals. I haven't seen any peer-reviewed papers on this, but I'm going to guess that's probably true. Let's see. Lone Waters. I've always seen the legalization of prostitution. I've already seen the legalization of prostitution once. I hope to see it here in the USA. Indeed. Lone Wanderers Bunker. Mr. Eccles. You got a great cat there. MC Fractal. Yeah. All right. I think I'm up to date on the chat. And I'm crushing the timeline, which everyone knows I'm happy about. Let's talk about the rioter, or a rioter from the January, I'm talking in tongues, the Jan, I'll just stick to the abbreviation, the Jan 6th assault on the Capitol building, the insurrection. This guy got busted because of Instagram, because of facial recognition software programs. This is the story. Feds tracked down Capitol rioter with facial recognition hit on his girlfriend's Instagram. That's right, busted because of his girl's gram. Federal authorities arrested a suspect in the U.S. Capitol riot in Harrodsburg, Kentucky. I'm sorry, it wasn't the federal riot on January 6th. Well, yes, it was. Let me say this all over again. I'm going to get my neurons straight with this. Federal authorities arrested a suspect in the U.S. Capitol riot, and the arrest happened in Harrodsburg, Kentucky on Tuesday after they used facial recognition programs to find an image of him on his girlfriend's Instagram page. Who would have thought this guy? Who would have thought he would be a rioter? I'm raising my hand. He looks like the type. The Abercrombie and Fitch rioter type. Stephen Chase Randolph. Who would have thought of guys with a name like this, Stephen Chase Randolph? Who would have thought he'd be a rioter, right? Federal authorities say knocked over a U.S. Capitol police officer manning the barriers at the building, causing the officer's head to hit the stairs behind her, resulting in a loss of consciousness. He then continued to assault two other officers by physically pushing, shoving, grabbing, and generally resisting the officers and interfering with their official duties, the federal officials said. The FBI released images of Randolph in late January, designating him as number 168-AFO because he was wanted for assault on federal officers. Members of the loosely affiliated sleuthing group Sedition Hunters dubbed the suspect as Gray Car Heart Hat based on his knit cap and published images of him. At some point, the FBI ran an image of Randolph through an, quote, open source facial comparison tool, unquote, that had been known to provide reliable results in the past. The FBI then found Randolph's Facebook page through his girlfriend's Facebook account on April. Okay, so this guy's an idiot, by the way. I know that we know that he's mean, and we kind of guess that he's an idiot, but now we're going to see the proof in the tasting of the pudding about what an idiot this guy is. The FBI then found Randolph's Facebook page through his girlfriend's Facebook account, and on April 13th, the federal authorities said two FBI special agents went undercover at Randolph's workplace and talked to him about the Capitol riot. Randolph, the feds said, shit went crazy at the Capitol and that it was fucking fun to be part of the mob. Randolph opined that the female officer likely had a concussion because she was curled up in a fetal position after being pushed to the ground, the affidavit states. He was arrested 1 week after the FBI's undercover visit. So this guy, he's at work. These undercover agents, of course, he doesn't know that they're undercover agents, but he doesn't know these guys. He doesn't know the agents, but he just starts talking. He starts running his mouth about what he did at the Capitol. Facial recognition tool yielded results associated with the Instagram page of the individual from Kentucky, blah, blah, blah. We went over that. That is unimportant. So here it is. Yeah, if you're on not only your Instagram profile, but on your friend's girlfriend's Instagram profile, you can get caught. And I have to tell you something. If you've done something that's obviously a crime, well, maybe you should if you're an idiot like this guy, right? A fascist supporter. Maybe you should talk to everybody about your crime. Talk to everyone. Go ahead, go talk. Put it on Instagram, put it on Twitter, put it on Facebook. That'll help the rest of us. That'll help the feds get you and arrest you. Exactly, James Henry. What a moron. What a moron. Sean, it really does take a special kind of stupid, right? It's like, I don't know you, but let me tell you about how I assaulted a police officer. How? James Henry, it's a question I ask quite a bit. How can one be so dumb and still be alive? Oh, here it is. I started watching the Q docuseries on HBO. Absolutely insane. I saw some of that too, Rage. I saw some of that too. And I'll say this again. Evangelical Christianity has primed an entire generation of people to believing in Q. Okay, like maybe 25% of the American population into believing in Q. So here it is. Those on the far right don't hold each other to account, so they don't expect anyone else to. No, that's a good point, MC Fractal. MC Fractal, that's a good point. All right. So yeah, this guy, what a winner, huh? What a winner. How are we doing for time? 42 minutes of crushing the timeline today. I guess we're going to talk about Minneapolis cops and about the federal probe. George Floyd murder. All the links are in the description, everyone. George Floyd murder, Minneapolis police to face a U.S. federal probe. Yay. The Justice Department will look at whether there has been a pattern of unconstitutional or unlawful policing, Attorney General Merrick Garland said. Who here thinks that there's been a history of unconstitutional and unlawful policing in Minneapolis? Can I raise two hands in the air? It follows national outrage over the killing of Mr. Floyd by Derek Chauvin, now prisoner Chauvin. The former officer was convicted of all charges against him on Tuesday. Chauvin was filmed kneeling on Mr. Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes. And if you haven't seen the Dave Chappelle show, the Dave Chappelle comedy, maybe it was a comedy special about Floyd's murder, it's worth seeing. So what will the investigation look at? The Attorney General said the investigation will include a comprehensive review of the Minneapolis Police Department's policies, training, supervision, and use of force investigations. It will also examine whether its treatment of those with behavioral health disabilities is unlawful. Yes, I'm just going to say, make a guess with that. While looking at the effectiveness of current systems of accountability and whether other mechanisms are needed to ensure constitutional and lawful policing. Current systems of accountability, that kind of assumes that there is a system in place of accountability for the police. Now, it strikes me, and tell me if I'm wrong, chat, that a system of accountability happens to be people protesting in the streets. It seems to be another system of accountability of people having phones with them, having phones and recording what the police do. Those seem to be systems of accountability, much more than internal affairs or the police policing themselves. which is an absurd concept. Mr. Garland said both the community and law enforcement would have to take part in the investigation were to be a success, and he had already started reaching out to both. If unlawful patterns or practices were found, he promised to issue a public report and bring a civil lawsuit. Yeah, I would be saving. I can just imagine the insurer. I mean, there has to be an insurer against lawsuits for the city of Minneapolis. I would start jacking up my rates for the city to pay. Analysis. What does this probe mean? The process happened after high-profile deaths of black men at the hands of police in Ferguson, Missouri, as well as Chicago and Baltimore. At the end of its investigation, the DOJ issues a report that often contains details that the public would otherwise have no access to. They may look at arrest statistics for any evidence of racial bias or for signs of racism in emails sent between officers. Why doesn't that happen all the time? Why does it take the DOJ to directly intervene? This should be happening all the time. What should be happening all the time? Let's see. The public should have access to arrest statistics for evidence of racial bias and for signs of every single cop's email. If you have a company, if you're a cop and you're using an email account for the police department's email account, guess what? That should all be made public. It should just all be made public. Except for investigations, if you're doing an ongoing investigation, of course. But otherwise, it's like a company email, right? You know that if you're working at a company and you're emailing stuff to other folks, other workers, other employees, you know that your boss or HR can look at those emails at any time. The police department, and I know this is going to sound naive, this is kind of sound trite, but it's true that the public is supposed to be the boss. Are supposed to be, they're the ones funding the police. So shouldn't we be looking at their emails, or at least we can look at the emails? All right. The report leads to an agreement, a consent decree between the DOJ and the department to fix specific troublesome practices. The city of Minneapolis could face real legal consequences if benchmarks laid out in the agreement are not met. However, the process can be slow, bureaucratic, and largely invisible to the community, and sometimes departments operate under federal monitoring for years. And past experiences show that these agreements do not lead to an end of controversial incidents. That's why it just can't be, oh, the DOJ is going to be investigating, we're going to be doing this. There has to be a system in place where there's accountability all the time for the police. This should not be a radical idea. This should just be everyday modus operandi, the way things are done, standard operating procedure. Check out the chat. Here it is. The thing I will never understand is that American cops are alone in their patrol cars with the appalling level of violent crime. Here, the cops are always in a pair and they never are alone. Good question. Yeah, there needs to be a department of troublesome practices. Oh, there should be some kind of watchman, watch people over every single police department. Now let's see what else we got. Film the fascists all day, every day. Indeed, they have to be filmed. QAnon is bonkers. Clockwork X. It is. All right. No, it is not. It is not. Citizens with smartphones is not an acceptable level of accountability. There needs to be structures, institutions within society that keep an eye on the police to make sure that they're doing what they need to do. And who watches the Watchmen? Indeed. Who watches the Watchmen? 49 minutes, I think. Do we have time? You want to see Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana try to own Stacey Abrams? It's an interesting video. I'm going to share it. You can watch Andy do technical stuff for like a split second here. It's and then you get to see me not do it well. Here we go. Great picture of Senator Kennedy. Not from Massachusetts. He's the evil Kennedy. though I know that can be somewhat confusing to people in terms of who the evil Kennedy is.
Last thing before we go tonight, let's talk about a guy, Senator John No Relation Kennedy of the great state of Louisiana. He's the one who likes to play the role of the country lawyer, maybe even the beloved small town barber or general store manager. It's a down-home persona that masks a first-class education at Vanderbilt, Oxford, UVA Law School, magna cum laude undergrad, law review executive editor, you get the rest, all that scholarly stuff. At Senate hearings, he goes big on the down-home phraseology and cute aphorisms. With witnesses, he likes to play the role of, I'm just a guy from Louisiana asking questions. But at a hearing this week, he might have met his match when he asked Stacey Abrams if she knew what was in that Georgia voter suppression law.
You're against the Georgia bill, I gather. Is that right?
I'm against certain provisions of it, yes.
Okay, I think you've called it a racist bill. Am I right?
I think there are provisions of it that are racist, yes.
Okay. Tell me specifically, just give me a list of the provisions that you object to.
I object to the provisions that remove access to the right to vote, that shorten the federal runoff period from 9 weeks to 4 weeks,
Okay.
that restrict the time that a voter can request and return an absentee ballot application, that eliminate...
Slow down for me, because our audio is not real good here. Okay, what else?
It bans nearly all out-of-precinct votes.
Bans what? I'm sorry?
It bans nearly all out-of-precinct votes.
Okay.
Meaning that if you get to a precinct and you are in line for 4 hours and you get to the end of the line and you are not there between 5 and 7 p.m.,
Okay,
you
what
have
else?
to start all over again.
Is that everything?
No, it is not. No, sir. It restricts the hours of operation because it now, under the guise of setting a standardized timeline, it makes it optional for counties that may not want to see expanded access to the right to vote. They can now limit their hours. Instead of those hours being from 7 to 7, they're now from 9 to 5, which may have an effect on voters who cannot vote during business hours, during early voting. It limits the...
Okay, I get the idea.
So that there was Stacey Abrams, Spelman College magna cum laude graduate, UT Austin, Truman Scholar, Yale Law School, offering a primer on the Georgia voter suppression law to Senator John No Relation Kennedy of Louisiana to take us off the air tonight. With that, that is our broadcast for the...
Man, what a cheaper... anyone who's seen any debate on YouTube can just call out bullshit that Kennedy was doing. He was obviously badgering, harassing, trying to get Stacey Abrams off her game. Unsuccessful. And she did the laugh. When she laughed, I'm like, I like the contempt, Stacey. I like that. Laughing at the absurdity of the situation. Rage goes, talking about cops. I think we had absolute access. We would see that's a much bigger issue than we thought. I believe the police are at war with poor people in general. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, there's no doubt about that. And John Hudson, yeah, F him, right? F that guy. F that guy. She burned him with such class. That's right. If someone just asked me about what I thought about the thing that grabs people's attention about the Georgia bill, the law that restricts voting rights, is the concept that it is now illegal to give people stuff waiting in line like snacks. They illegalize snacks. You can't give snacks to people in line waiting to vote in Georgia. What kind of fascist dictatorship illegalizes snacks? All right. So let's do a funny little video, and then we'll review what we just did. cat, loud cat, a vocal cat. Giving them water, banned. Exactly. Giving, yep. Ray says Stacey Abrams went a bit corporate, but she is an old school activist, community organizer, state legislator. She's been in the fight for a while. Kennedy has been in the club. Yes, he has. And you're right, James Henry. Stacey Abrams, the system, the system of getting out the vote in Georgia gave Dems control of the Senate. Indeed. All right, everyone. We are doing the after party, after show, open room in 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes. Check it out if you want to come in and chat. The show's running from 10 to 10:45 today because I'm getting my shot. I'm going to say thank you to my patrons. Say thank you for YouTube members with this video. Hopefully I'll see you at 10.